Welcome to the Family Brand Show. We're Chris and Melissa Smith of FamilyBrand.com, husband and wife, parents of 5, and we want to help you take back your family and to live life on your terms.
And we know being a family can feel really overwhelming. Parents tell us they feel like they're being pulled in a million different directions. It's so challenging to navigate the uncertainty and all the chaos that's happening in the world right now.
And that's why we want to bring you every single week actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better parent, to become a better spouse, and to build a stronger family. And look, there's never been a better time and a more important time than right now to take back your family. You can define what your family stands for, or the world is going to do it for you. And the world needs strong families now more than ever. And it starts right here with your family.
What a month we have had. Family Brand, Chris and Melissa. We had our Family Brand Blitz that we've been talking to you about for a few weeks or even months now. We had our 20th anniversary trip, which was incredible. Some cool stories and experiences and takeaways from both of those things, which we will tell you more about them. But today, we're going to talk about something completely different. Take it away, Chris.
Yes, and super excited to share, in a couple episodes here soon. The things we wish we'd have known 20 years ago.
10 things we've learned in 20 years.
10 things we've learned, in 20 years. We did go to Spain. Little spoiler alert, Spain is super awesome. A couple months ago, we did an episode called Chief Reminding Officer. And in the spirit of repetitiveness and reminding, I want to talk about it again. Because I've just been reminded myself this week in my own company that it is incredibly valuable to be repetitive. And I think sometimes as parents especially, I think I look at being repetitive as almost like a negative thing. Like, why am I having to repeat myself again? How many times am I going to have to talk about this? And I think what I'm learning in business and in life and in your family is like, no, you're probably going to have to keep talking about it forever. Like the things that matter, the things that are important. And we had in our company this past Monday what we just referred to as an authentic conversation. And one of the cool things about, I feel like our team and our company is that we can have authentic conversations, meaning we're not afraid to have what some might consider difficult, hard, challenging, awkward conversations. We don't refer to them as that because language creates, so we just call them authentic conversations. We're pretty good at having them. And we had one Monday as a team. And look, I'm going to brag for a second. I think our team's amazing. I think if most companies compared themselves to ours in terms of doing what they say they're going to do, meeting deadlines, keeping their word, keeping agreements, operating at a level of excellence, I think a lot of companies would look at our company and be like, wow, they do a really great job. And that's all due to our team. And I've just seen some things recently where I'm like, this isn't like who we are. And the word that kept coming to mind for me around it was like just a little bit of sloppiness. Now, again, I think it's the exception, by far not the rule. But then I've also thought, I think that's sometimes about our family. Like things are just kind of getting a little bit sloppy. Whether that's maybe jobs or chores or our communication or our commitments. It's just like we had an authentic conversation as a team and I gave some examples. I didn't name anyone by name. And everyone on the team agreed like, yeah, that's not us. That's not how we want to show up. And that's not how we want to operate. And so we had a conversation as a team of like, well, what would fix this? What would have us not operate this way? What would have us operate like with more, like just having things be a little bit tightened up, not as sloppy, not as loose. And our team collectively agreed like, though it would be our identity, like our culture, our mission, our vision, our values, if we just lived those things. And based on a few of these things happening in our team, I decided to start listening to this book called Excellence Wins. It's written by Horst Schulze. He's the one of the co-founders of the Ritz Carlton. And in the opening forward of the book, which I can't remember who wrote the forward, it's not even Horst. It says, in terms of his vision for excellence, Horst has always believed in repetition and reinforcement as the best way to sustain the exemplary service standards taught to each hotel staff member. So almost like in the opening of the book, in the forward is the whole clue, the answer to everything, which is like, if you want to know how the Ritz operates at a really high level of excellence consistently and things just run smoothly, which I think most families would say, oh, I'd love our family to run like the Ritz because it's like not necessarily high end, but just very consistent, very predictable, very dependable. And Horst says right here, it's because of his repetition and his reinforcement. And what they go on and talk about in the book, and I haven't finished it, the Ritz doesn't teach a whole lot of new principles. They just consistently follow the principles that they've always had in place. And the kind of the core of their identity at the Ritz Carlton is ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And because early on, Horst wanted the men and women working at the Ritz to also see themselves as ladies and gentlemen. It's like, you're not lower than anyone else. And yes, we might serve a wealthier demographic. We might be serving ladies and gentlemen, but you're also ladies and gentlemen. They've not strayed from that since the Ritz was initially founded. Still to this day, the core of their identity is ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And that's just what they continually remind people of. They reinforce it. They're repetitive. I would say they're obnoxiously probably repetitive on purpose in their culture. And then they also have these 21 rules that they live by. And this morning I was on a coaching call with one of our clients, and I was sharing with him some of these insights because he was struggling with something similar in his company. And he said, we went through a Ritz Carlton private training years ago. And I was so impressed because they review one rule a day at the start of every shift. So every 21 days, all 21 rules are being revisited. And he's like, they don't introduce a whole lot of new things. It's just consistently following. But I think repetition and reinforcement is challenging. Maybe when you first create like your mission, vision, values, or maybe when you first create a new morning routine as a family, or you create a bedtime routine, or you create a weekend clean up the house routine, maybe initially there's a little bit of excitement and motivation and push. But it's like, once that wears off, sometimes a weekend or a few days in or 30 days in, it's like, well, then what? Like, well, you just got to push through. And it's like most great companies that I know, they've just been so repetitive and consistent and just reinforce and reinforce and reinforce. And I just think it's a lesson for us, even as families. There's so many clues about great businesses that we can learn in families that it just had me be like, man, am I reinforcing to our family and to my children who we are? And am I being repetitive enough? Because I really think Melissa and I have done a good job creating our mission, our vision, our values. I think we have systems and processes that we know work in our family. We know that when we show up to mornings this way, it works. We know that when we show up to evenings this way, it works. We know that when we show up to weekends a certain way, it works. I don't think that Melissa and I are ever, and I'd love to hear what Melissa you have to say, I don't think we're ever like, oh, we just don't know what to do, or we need a new thing. I really think it's like, can we just reinforce in a very repetitive way, which I know repetitive isn't super exciting. It's not super sexy. It's not like creative and fun. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think we need new stuff as a family, or do we just need to consistently and repetitively reinforce what we already have in place?
It's way more exciting to add new stuff, like new initiatives and new ideas.
Totally. A new focus.
But for sure, we already have enough stuff that we could not add anything new, and if we just stuck to what we already had in place and we would operate like well and fine.
Like the Ritz.
And I love that. Chris hasn't told me at all about this book that he's been reading. That's the first time I heard about it. And we actually had our couples retreat in March at a Ritz Carlton. So we've stayed at a Ritz recently, and it was a really great experience as far as customer service and like the atmosphere they create. And it does, like you said, in our Family Brand Academy, we have one of the exercises that we have families do. Families really looking to a business or a brand that you admire and taking kind of distilling it down to what is it that I love about this brand? Like, I really like this brand, but what actually is it that has me like this brand? And is there lessons that we can apply to our family? So I love how you just kind of did that in a way with the Ritz, and then he even broke it down to like about being ladies and gentlemen and just things that we like, how we can apply it to our own family.
Yeah, and it's also with that exercise, it's not just like, why do I like this brand? Because there's a lot of brands we like. It's why do I admire this brand? Like, maybe more like, I respect this brand. I admire this brand because of what they stand for, the way they show up. Now, I have been challenged on this though before, because I've talked about this a lot in business, just chief reminding officer, being repetitive, reinforcing. We don't need anything new. We just need to consistently follow through on what we already know. Sometimes someone goes, well, what if you encounter something that you've never encountered before? Doesn't that require something new? And my experience has been, no, it just requires you to say, well, how does this new thing align with who we actually already are? So like, let's say the Ritz Carlton encountered something that maybe they'd never encountered before. I don't think they need to create a whole new initiative, a whole new identity, a new rule. It's like, how would ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen solve this? How would a ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen show up to this? What would a lady and gentleman do? It's like, but it is, the temptation is like, oh, we need a new value or a new mission statement or a new, it's like, no, I just think we need to like remind ourselves of who we are. And it's kind of like, again, it's easy though to let the tail start wagging the dog and always picking new things and getting distracted. But it was just a lesson to me. And we walked away from our team meeting on Monday. Everyone was like, we just got to get back to who it is we know we are. If we just live the things that we've already declared, there wasn't an instance of sloppiness in our team by myself or anyone that wouldn't be solved by us just living the standards we've already committed to. It wasn't like, oh man, in order to not be sloppy in that area again, we're going to have to create a new value or behavior or rule. We have a kind of like a culture rule. And we even broke it down. If we just lived our identity, which is be a growth partner, and we lived our one rule, which is to be 100, be 100% responsible, we could see in every instance, truly living those two things would have solved every instance of sloppiness. It was just kind of this reminder, like, oh yeah, we just gotta be who it is we say we are. We just have to more consistently, more repetitively. And look, I probably make way too many health analogies, but oh my gosh, isn't the gym the most perfect demonstration of this? Like most of us who have worked out for some consistent period of time at some point in our lives, it really isn't like, I don't know what to do at the gym, or I need something brand new if I'm going to like be healthy. It's like, no, it's actually just executing and following through on probably the knowledge you already have. And that doesn't mean that you can't always be learning and gaining new insights. But I just think I hope that comes, actually, my hope is that this is actually like a sigh of relief for families. It's like, oh, so I don't always need to be like on the hunt for the next new tactic or the next new idea or the next new parenting program. And then it's just like, there's things that we've probably identified that we know have our family work. There's things that we've identified that probably know that have our relationship work. What if we just get back to the basics and just follow through and ask ourselves, are we even doing the things that, like, are Melissa and I doing the things that we already have identified have our marriage work? Are we doing the things as a family that we know have our family work? Because if you find your family getting a little bit sloppy or your relationship a little bit sloppy or things aren't working, before you rush to a new idea, it's like, are we reinforcing and being repetitive on the things that we already know have worked for us?
I think sometimes it can feel like, at least for me, sometimes, yeah. Like, for example, when you were talking about, is our relationship getting sloppy? It's like, okay, we know that date night works for us. And sometimes it feels like maybe a sacrifice to set this time aside for date night, or it works really well when we pick up the house at night too. And in the moment, it feels like, oh, we don't want to do that. But it allows our life to run so much more smoothly with like just that little bit of discipline with our calendar for date night, or the pickup in the evening. So those little momentary sacrifices totally pay off in the long run for the peace and just upgrade that it provides.
So really cool exercise in closing here. I keep referencing this idea of like the things that we know have our family work. And we'll talk more about this when we do on a podcast here about our takeaways from our family brand Blitz. One of the coolest exercises that I feel like Melissa and I've done and families really loved at the Blitz was this exercise of our family works when and our marriage works when. Because there's things that you do, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, that when you do it, your family really works better. It just runs smoother. There's things that you do, whether you're conscious of it or not, have your marriage run better and run more smoothly. So there's not like, it's not that there's not things that you don't do. It's like, but for Melissa and I, we didn't even realize that until we got them down on paper. We're like, oh my gosh, when we do this, our family runs smoother. When we do this, our family works. When we do this, our marriage works better. It was kind of like, why don't we do it more? Partly it's because we'd never written it down. And so I would just, if you already have some idea of what has your family work and your marriage work, if things ever get a bit wobbly in your marriage or your family, first thought is to go back to like, are we doing the things that we already know how's our family work? If you don't feel like you have that, that would be an exercise I would do. It's fun. It's like, hey, when our marriage is just really working, when we're communicating really well, when we're getting along, what are the ingredients? Like, what are we doing? And some things you might even surprise yourself. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize, like, yeah, but when we go on walks consistently, when we go on a date once a week, when we get the kids in bed on time so we can hang out, like, oh, there's some clues here. And then same thing with our family. Hey, what are the things that have our family work? And then I promise you have like your ingredients for working. You don't need anything new. Just got to follow the recipe.
One thing when you were talking earlier, I was reminded of that sometimes I feel like that act of reminding or that act of repetitiveness, yes. I want to fight against it, but it's helpful for me to remember, okay, accept it like as it is, love what is. And the fact is that I'm going to have to continue reinforcing and reminding and revisiting and reevaluating and just repeating myself all the time for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I just signed up and accepted it, like it's acceptance.
So I can either be like frustrated about what is, or just be like, yeah, this is what we signed up for. Here we go. Let's do it. There's a nugget.
In any leadership position in your family or in your business, you could be like, I shouldn't have to repeat myself. We should not have to keep talking about this, which just induces suffering and misery and resentment. Or it's just like, I'm going to have, like, I recognize that part of leadership is I'm going to have to continue to talk about the things that matter. Now, there's also an element of this that if you're talking about it all the time and nothing changes, that's a whole nother conversation. But I don't think I've learned, don't be discouraged. If there are things that matter, if there are things that are true principles, it's not just okay. It's actually, I think part of success is to talk about them often. So
You get to talk about them. Oh.
Make it a goal to be obnoxiously repetitive. Make it a goal to reinforce the things that matter. And never forget that one of our biggest responsibilities as leaders is to remind people. All right, so that is it for today's episode of the Family Brand Podcast.
But before you go, we have something fun for you.
Yeah, like if you've ever wondered, okay, so how's our family culture actually doing? We've got an incredible quiz for that.
Good news, it's quick, it's free, and when you're done with that quiz, we'll even email you this awesome PDF full of practical ways to strengthen your family culture right away.
So all you have to do is go to familybrand.com/quiz, take the quiz, grab the PDF.
We'll see you next time.